What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another video. This is going to be an interesting one. I am sitting in the back seat of an L-39 today, instructing my friend Muzz. Muzz is a relatively new player to DCS. He loves aviation, he loves airplanes, but he's not really had any basic training. And of course, as some of you might know, especially from my intros, I am a real-life pilot and I am a captain of a Boeing 737. But I've never been an instructor, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity to jump into the back seat of one of my favorite modules in DCS, which is the L-39. This thing flies absolutely fantastic. It's one of my favorite aircraft just to throw around, do some aerobatics in, and over the last couple of weeks I've really dived down into the systems of this airplane, learned a lot about its history, about its limitations, how it's used, and I'm really keen to put my knowledge to the test and see if I can do a little bit of instructing from the back seat. We are over in Henderson Airfield, just to the south of Las Vegas here, and for those of you that are Patreon supporters, I will of course leave the mission in the Google Drive folder that you guys have access to. It's nothing special really, just a whole bunch of objects and aircraft scattered around the airfield, and of course I will also leave a list of mods required to run the mission. Now today we'll be doing some circuits, so I'll be doing the takeoff initially. We'll be taking off on a southerly heading just to start with a light tailwind, just because the taxi out's a lot shorter that way. After that we'll swing it back around, come in on the northerly heading back in to land on what's called 35 left in DCS, but in actual practice it should be runway 36, so the runway number is a little bit off in DCS. Now the reason this flight is really interesting for me is I've never actually been an instructor in real life, and I'm really curious to know how I am perceived as an instructor, because of course when I instruct or say something from the back seat, I might think that I come across one way, but in practice of course it might come across a completely different way. And this has been a fantastic learning tool, because I can have a look at the replays and think about what I said. Did I make sense? Should I have been more cohesive? Should I have been more encouraging? Should I have used a different tone? Did I judge the situation well? Did I come across in the way I thought I would or should? And yeah, so it's a learning experience, not just for Muzz here sitting in the front seat getting a grilling. No, I'm just kidding. He's not getting a grilling. He's doing a great job. And also for myself, you know, just to be self-critical and think about how I can improve instructing in the future, just for a little bit of fun. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, sit back and enjoy the video. We have 2 good engine starts. You're clear to disconnect the headset. We'll see you on the left with the pin. Thanks a lot. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
To taxi. Excellent. So what I would do here is, it's an uncontrolled airfield, so I would say Henderson traffic, experimental 26 November Tango taxiing out, runway 17 right, Henderson. So we got the altimeter set, everything's set. Clear left, clear right, and let's go. The reason I'm not putting the taxi lights on is because in DCS it just looks dumb. It illuminates everything even though it's pure daytime.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so that's the only reason. Clear left.
Cops are watching you.
Yeah, I know. I don't mind these cops too much.
Had a beer tonight, and I was like, "Oh, this is a really nice beer." Guess where it came from?
You flying? Are you flying and drinking and flying at the same time?
I am, yeah.
Super uncool. Right, hold on one sec here. Clear left, clear right, and Henderson traffic experimental 26 November Tango is taking off runway 17 right, Henderson. Where's the beer from? No way.
It's actually quite nice.
How do you dare drink that? Never drink that.
I know.
Right, let's do a little lineup here. So as I said before, the lineup is pretty crucial, because that's a free castering wheel at the front. There we go. Right. So I'll just talk you through the takeoff. Our flaps are set for 25%. That's the middle position. and our trim is neutral. We'll do a little flight controls check. Everything is good. And again, I'm not putting the landing lights on because they just look dumb in DCS. Pure daytime. We're on the brakes. We know the pattern altitude's going to be
4,000?
4,000 feet, correct. But we're going to be doing this circuit in the opposite direction, i.e. exactly 180 degrees to where we're facing now. So we'll take off. We'll just do a quick climb out, and then we'll make a 180, and we'll come back overhead for a circuit and fly it in the opposite direction because the wind's blowing in from behind. It's only a light tailwind for us for takeoff, so that's fine. So we'll throttle up all the way, and we're watching for that RPM there. Make sure it does not exceed our maximum limit, which I believe is about 106% there. And now we're off the brakes. Stick down a little bit. And a little bit differential braking. Now the rudder is becoming effective. Stick neutral. Keep the center line. Waiting for 80 knots. 80 knots will gently rotate and keep the nose below 10 degrees. Just release the back pressure a little bit. Let the wheels come off the ground. Airborne gears coming up. Waiting for 140 knots.
Put my gear up as well.
Flaps up. Yeah. Good idea there. Yeah, that's good. Right, okay. A little bit of ground effect. And now we'll just pitch up. And the circuit is clear, so we'll just swing and do a 180. And come back for a pattern. So I'll just come in overhead to start. We'll just pretend as if we've taken off this reciprocal runway.
Yep.
And we'll get up to 4,000 feet as well. Just keep under 200 knots. And Henderson traffic, experimental 26 November Tango is overhead the field for a left brake, runway 1, correction 01 left, Henderson. So in reality, of course, you'd be climbing out here as you make your crosswind leg, but we've already got our 4,000 feet, right? So I want you to have a look at some visual cues on the ground when we're doing this circuit. So we'll start the turn here, roughly where we'd probably start it after takeoff. And we're looking for a heading, it's nice and simple, so it's heading 270 because it's 90 degrees. Maintain that 4,000 feet, just under 200 knots. And there's our heading of 270. And shortly after we'll start a turn again for the downwind leg. And you see there's a sort of cluster of big buildings there on the left hand side.
Yeah.
Or 11 o'clock now. So if we just pass just behind them, somewhere around here, that's a pretty nice circuit there. And I've just overshot my heading slightly, so I'll just come back on a heading of 180. So there's our 4,000 feet, and we're just under 200 knots. And just after we pass downwind here, we can extend the landing gear. So gear's coming down. You can keep your handle up, so you can keep your handle up there. Yeah. Okay. My gear is down, so our gear is down now.
Yep.
And I'll just, now as we pass the threshold of the runway, the landing runway, I've just descended slightly there, so I'll just bring the nose back up slightly. And we're slowing down, about 150 knots we'll get the first stage of flaps, i.e. the takeoff flap setting. Now we're about 45 degrees from the threshold, so flaps are coming half. And we're starting a gentle descent, and we're keeping a speed of about 135 knots as we make this turn on base. And we'll keep about 135 knots as much as we can on that base leg while maintaining a light, just a slight descent. And there's 090 degrees, so that's our base leg. Just gonna keep it coming down, and once we start our turn onto final, we'll get our final flap setting, landing flap. So here is pretty good, landing flap. Now you'll see the airplane will actually balloon. You'll feel this when you're flying, so you probably need to give it a couple of dabs of nose down trim and then maintain a speed of about 120 knots, between 110 and 120 knots on final. And a perfect touchdown is where you can, the nose wheel, you haven't touched down hard enough where the nose wheel comes back and touches the ground, but it's where you can also do like a wheelie, or basically aerodynamic braking to slow down. Obviously in our case, we'll then just put the nose wheel down gently on the ground and accelerate back up. Put flaps to half, full throttle, make sure the speed brake's retracted, and we'll go from there. So after takeoff, I'll give you control. A little bit high. Once I know that the runway's made, round about here, I'll go idle, okay? So go idle quite early on because it takes a while for it to spill down. And touchdown speed is about 97 knots. So once we get close to the ground, just start rounding off, and just trying to do a nice gentle touchdown. There's a nice gentle touchdown. We can still keep the nose wheel off the ground, keep it no more than 10 degrees nose up. Now we'll put nose wheel on the ground, throttle up, flaps to half. Make sure the speed brake's retracted. 80 knots, pulling back. Gently, just unloading the pressure in the stick now. And gears coming up, waiting for 140 knots. There's 140. And flaps coming up. And it is your controls.
I have control.
Alright, so keep us climbing out. Don't speed up above 200 knots, and you can start your crosswind leg round about here. So, yep. You can keep it full thrust.
Yep.
Until, yeah, keep it full thrust until we get to 4,000 feet or the speed. Don't overbank too much though. Nice gentle sort of 30-35 degree turn. Yeah, very good. Cool. 270 degrees, perfect. Very nice. And you can start a gentle turn again now onto your downwind. Just approaching 4,000 feet. Yeah. Just nose down a touch. Very nice. And throttle down a little bit just to stay underneath 200 knots. Your circuit's slightly wider than mine, but that's fine. It's no problem. There you go. So now you're in downwind. Just nose down a little bit just to arrest your ascent. Yep, very good. And just throttle idle now at this point.
Throttle idle?
Yep. So we want to be under 200 knots. We actually want 183 knots. So we should be putting the gear any moment now, but we need to wait until we get to 183 knots. So it takes a little while to spill down and slow down. So yeah, just maintain this for now. There's 190 knots. There is 185, and we can put the gear down.
Gear down.
Excellent. So I think this is looking pretty good to start your base leg. So you want to start your base leg. You'll need to use a little bit of left rudder there just to keep it coordinated, just because remember that adverse yaw that we talked about. Yep. Just a touch, especially to start the turn. Right, very good. Keep it slowing it down to about 135 knots. And we can, yeah, just keep a very slight descent rate, because your circuit's quite wide. You need to descend just a very shallow descent. See, don't pitch down. Yeah. Pitch up. Otherwise, we'll be well short of the runway.
Yeah.
Pitch up. And left turn again to get onto final. Yeah, we'll overshoot the runway a little bit, but don't worry. Just keep the turn going, and then you'll just gently roll back out with a bit of an S-turn. Just pitch up again a little bit. You see the runway's quite low.
Yep.
And go flaps full.
Flaps full.
Now left runway this time, not right runway.
Left runway, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and speed, just increase thrust a bit. Just get your 120 knots if you can. Okay, so you got full flaps, 3 greens on the gear, so you are looking good. The Henderson traffic, experimental 26 November Tango is final runway 35 left, Henderson. Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Keep it coming down. Keep it coming down. And thrust. Idle now. Keep it coming down. You wanna sort of aim to, yeah, a little bit before, yeah, sort of where the piano keys are. You want to be aiming there with your nose, really.
Yeah, sure.
Round off, round off. Pull back, pull back, pull back. Bit hard. So next time, just throttle down when you're putting down the gear, beam threshold, just all the way. But yeah, good, cool. Flaps half when you can. Yeah, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, and keep that turn coming. Keep it coming, because you're look at the runway. So yeah, keep it coming. And go full flaps.
Full flaps.
Excellent.
Yeah, I felt the balloon yet.
Yeah, there you go. So you might need a couple of dabs of nose down trim at some point, or maybe you've done it already.
Yeah, I've done it already.
That's looking very nice. Look at that excellent center line. Throttle up a bit. Just keep it 120 knots if you can. A bit more thrust. Just come left a bit. You just drifted it just a touch to the right. Yeah. Cool. Nice gentle touchdown this time if you can. So round it off nicely when you get close to the runway, and hold it off.
Wilco.
Okay, thrust can probably go to idle at this point.
Idle thrust.
Round up a bit more, bit more. Yeah, that's okay, but that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. That's good. Right, let the nose wheel drop onto the ground. Go flaps half, full thrust.
Flaps half, full thrust.
Massive improvement over the last one, anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Center line's perfect.
Yeah, looking past 80. Come on.
Yeah. Excellent.
And off the ground.
Excellent.
Fills up.
Waiting for 140. There it is, 140. Flaps up.
And flaps up.
Excellent. All right, let's repeat that. I'll shut up for a second. See how you get on then. You can start the crosswind here. Once we pass this the freeway here.
Running off to 270.
Beautiful.
Leveling the nose off.
Cool. And just the speed now to sort out.
Yeah.
Very nice. And come left now. It's going to be a little bit wide, but that's not
I'll bring it around, hopefully a bit.
You see this road underneath us to the left here?
I do, yeah.
I would say, ideally, that should be the sort of boundary of your circuit. Ideally,
yeah, okay.
Right? But don't worry about it. It's absolutely fine. I'm just nitpicking here. So I would probably go thrust idle at this point, because you're above 200 knots. It'll take a while for it to bleed off. And yeah, just give it a couple of dabs of nose up trim as the speed is slowing down, because you'll know the nose will want to drop as the speed decays. So that's pretty good. We'll just wait for 180 knots or 183 knots and gear down from that point.
Gear down.
Excellent.
And coming round.
Okay.
Gentle descent.
Just keep thrust idle there, because you need 150 knots to drop the first stage of flaps, so you need to slow down. Ideally, you should already have your first stage of flaps by this point anyway.
Ah, okay. Well, I've gone past the 90 anyway.
That's okay, don't worry. Don't worry if it's a bit squinty, but I would definitely pitch up because the runway's looking quite low.
Yeah.
Start coming left now. And here's your flap speed.
Flaps. First stage flaps.
Probably go straight to landing flap there as well.
Sure. Landing flap.
Center line's excellent. Speed's just decaying a bit there, I could see.
Yeah, I'm just coming up in the thrust.
Try and get it back to about 110 to 120 if you can. Henderson traffic, experimental 26 November Tango is final, runway 35 left, touch and go, Henderson.
Just coming.
Yeah, you can throttle back way earlier.
Thrust side up.
Yeah. So where you see we're sort of going to be touching down the middle of the runway here.
Yeah.
Go back a bit. Yeah, just a little harsh there on touchdown, but that's fine. So trailing link landing gear, so it'll yeah, you can throttle up and flaps half. It's
Flaps
a trailing link landing gear, so it makes almost any landing kind of fairly smooth, even a pretty rough one. It's been designed that way for, you know, students. Try and get onto the center line there as well, otherwise we're... Huh?
I know. Gear up.
Yeah.
And flaps up.
Excellent.